The final score was 86-84. Silas Demery made a couple of huge shots late. UConn had 3 guys at 21 points. AJ Dybantsa, however, Goodman. I feel like that's going to be the story that people are talking about coming out of this game, despite who ended up winning. You were there. You were courtside. You watched it all. Give me your takeaways.
I mean, I just thought, like you said, Dybantsa probably – we've talked about the freshman, right? That's all we've talked about ad nauseum so far. And for the first 20 minutes, it looked like AJ kind of disappeared after the first few minutes, right? Didn't take a lot of shots, didn't force a lot of things. Early on, he went to the basket, got to the line a couple times, got a layup. And then after that, there wasn't much. And you're looking at it saying, all right, UConn's only up 11 somehow. I felt like they should have been 15, 20 points at that point. And then AJ, give him credit, because I think about this. He's from Brockton, Mass. This was a homecoming. This was a game that was basically arranged through he and his father with BYU when he committed there. I want to play home, and they got UConn. Maybe the best program in America, certainly the last 3 years. So I think it would have been easy for him to force things. It would have been easy for him to, be a guy that tried to go get his when he really played with a lot of poise, I thought. And then when he started getting the rhythm, then it was fine. Go get yours, my man. And he got him back into the game, and they had a chance to win. So I was so impressed with not only – we had seen, Rob, his shot making. So that really doesn't surprise me all that much. It was the poise and the fact that he was home and he didn't try to, do too much, and he wasn't up and down. You didn't see any emotion from him really whatsoever tonight.
Here's where I'm going to push back on you. You definitely did not see very much emotion. He was locked in. He was a killer, especially in that second half. In the first half, he was trying to do way too much, Justin. There was a while, I think the first 10 minutes, it looked like he was trying to single-handedly take that game over and score 100 points. Once he kind of settled in, he got it going. What was your biggest takeaway from AJ's performance tonight, Justin?
Yeah, I think it was just the difference between the two halves for me was a big part of how they called the game. The first half, I mean, it was a brawl, right? So all of AJ's offense, majority of the time, is going to be off of isolation plays, right? And so whenever he in the first half was trying to go make a play, try to go, get a bucket like he did in the second half, some of those, swipe down, some of those, secondary guys coming in, getting hands on them, weren't called in the first half. So that automatically puts a little more pressure in his mind. I got to go even harder. And I think what's so impressive to me is, people talk about his frame and how they think he needs to get a little stronger. The pressure he puts on the defense, especially in that second half, for me, was very impressive, right? Like, you hit a couple jumpers and you start feeling good. You start to kind of, okay, you know what, let me shoot another one. But instead, for him to get to the free throw line as many times as he did in the second half, I think was probably the biggest indicator of kind of where his mentality is when it comes to offensively.
Yeah, we're going to talk about the UConn side of this here in a second. We're waiting for an interview that Goodman had with Dan Hurley here to be ready to go before we dive into the UConn stuff. But one last thing on BYU, Goodman, I want both of you guys to answer this, right? Like, we came into this game thinking that BYU was a Big 12 title contender, a Final Four threat, potentially, a team that could go out and win a national championship. I think in the first half, we saw a team that did not look anything like any of those things. In the second half, we saw a team that looked like, you know what? When they get playing like that, they look like one of the best teams in college basketball. And, oh, by the way, they did it without Keba Keita and Kennard Davis. Goodman, give me your overall takeaways of BYU and kind of moving forward.
That's the huge thing, is they played without 2 starters in the second half and did what they did. So I think, if you're talking to the BYU guys, again, moral victories, I don't know if they have that, but what I would say is, again, you're playing in a arena that is full of UConn fans for the most part, probably 80-90%, and without 2 starters, and Kennard Davis is your best defender, and Keita is your best big man, and you came back. So there is a moral victory, I think, to be taken from this. And more than that, it's something they can really build on going forward.
Justin?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it, but having a game like this as your 4th game, whether you, in my opinion, whether you win or lose, obviously you want to always be on the winning side, but whether you win or lose, this will do nothing but help you going forward. And then you add the fact that those two guys were basically out the entire game, who are going to end up being two of your main guys throughout the entire season. It's something that you can go back as a coaching staff. Obviously, the players, they wanted to win, the coaches did too. But as a coaching staff, you can look at it and say, okay, where can we get better? What guys do we know now can play in a bigger role whenever they need to? So I'm still big on BYU. I think it's going to be a question mark. I'm always a proponent of bigs when it comes to college basketball. What help can they get besides Kada in the back line? But I love the way this team is built. I love Kevin Young as the coach, and some of the things that he runs. So I think this team could just get better and better.
The least surprising thing I've ever heard on the Field of 68 After Dark is that a dude that played at North Carolina thinks you need big guys to win in college basketball. That checks a lot of boxes. That makes a lot of sense. I think with BYU, a couple things really stood out to me. One was what I was kind of worried about was if you have a guy that ran a little bit of a free-flowing offense last year and you have a player in AJ Dybantsa who's so like isolation dependent, how is that all going to come together? Well, you know what? Robert Wright was able to get his early. Richie Saunders made a ton of plays in the second half. They were very good about being able to scheme him opportunities, running off of pin downs, running off of staggered screens, being able to get him opportunities to kind of get isolations against the defense that's moving and opportunities against closeouts. And I thought that worked offensively. And I loved what we saw defensively. They have some things they need to clean up. They're switching man-to-man defense. Like it was a little too much for AJ this early in his career, but the effort was there. The want to was there. He got a little bit confused on some of the misdirections and some of the exchanges that UConn had going on, which like that happens to fifth-year seniors, not a kid that's in his fifth game playing for BYU. So that will get better, but they were able to throw a 2-3 zone at them. They were able to throw a press with AJ Dybantsa at the top of the press. I just thought that there were a lot more looks that Kevin Young was able to use on the defensive side of the floor that really impressed me. I think BYU is here to stay, right? Like I don't think that's necessarily breaking any news, but I was really impressed with the variety of looks that they could give on that end of the floor, despite the fact that they gave up 86 to this UConn team.